Nice.
right now. But
Well, it is good to finally meet you and to have a conversation with you.
oh yes, excellent,
It's
excellent. I
long,
appreciate the invitation.
I think it's long overdue.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
Um, Conscious Conversations is my baby. It's my social media baby. And hold on 2 seconds. And I began it a couple of years ago to create a space for those of us who want to have these dialogues and these exchanges, and to be to set an example of the process, what takes place after the process of going through a spiritual journey, going through your healing, becoming aware of who you truly are, and having clarity as to what it is you're supposed to do in your own personal life. What your mission is. We hear so many people talk about heal and go on your journey and things like that, but I love having conversations with people who have actually gone through the process and are, of course, still on their journey, but can look back and say, hey, look what I did. Look what I went through. Look what I achieved. I know who I am. I know why I'm here. I know what I'm supposed to be doing right now, and I'm getting it done. So that's one of the reasons why I feel like you and I aligned for so long on this platform. It's
Right.
a long time here on
I agree.
TikTok, and I just admire what you do as an educator, as a person who is very much in tune with who you were meant to be in this world, not so much what the world wants you to be. And what I love most about what you put out into the algorithm is, like in the background, what you have right here, things that we're not going to be aware of, things that we're not going to know about, things that mass media is not going to share with us that is taking place here in the world. And these are the things that they distract us from. So we can't do things about it. So we can't, participate and create change.
Right, right.
And it's extremely critical. So if you could do me the honor and introduce yourself to my audience, because they're unaware of who you are.
Okay, my name is. I appreciate the kind words. First of all, that was just beautiful. I mean, I think about all the things that you just said, and it gives it gives more like when you said how we're in sync and how things are happening for us. I guess gives me more reassurance that I'm doing the right thing and I'm on the right path, and I appreciate those things that you said to me because absolutely, I feel like there is a purpose and a mission for all of us to be in this universe, and I've learned that just we have to embrace it as it falls right in front of us because our path is always going to be guided by the choices that we make, and a lot of times we're scared to make those choices. But I want to reassure everybody in this chat that your next decision is going to be your best decision, and you should do it. Just don't hesitate. My name is Dr. Harrison Jones the Fourth, and I'm a speaker. I'm a coach. I'm a professor. I've been a principal of high school. I've been, pretty fast. I used to run the track at a 400-meter dash in 45 seconds. So I've lived a life where I understand if you set a goal for yourself, that you can achieve it. And the only way you're going to meet your goals is if you set goals. A lot of times people don't understand how to set goals. And one of the things that I did when I became into this field of motivational speaking, because I've been in education for a long time, and I decided I wanted to go into speaking, was I recognized that people they weren't setting goals. They were just talking about what they were going to do, but they didn't write it down. They didn't tell them that they tell the universe what they wanted. And it's important to write things down. And I think one of the things that we get away from in this world is the simplicity of, manifestation, the simplicity of just believing in yourself and making right choices. And a lot of times we lost that. And so I just wanted to bring that opportunity for everybody and just get back to the situation where we're learning from each other, we're growing from each other, and we're making better choices, and we're just having a better future for tomorrow. Because the way we're going right now, it could be really crazy for a while. But I understand though, because I was just telling people earlier that I'm glad everything happens in waves. Like I know that the universe, everything happens in waves. It's like you go to the ocean, you go to the beach, the water goes back, and the water comes up. The water goes back. If you look at any sinusoids, you got cosine. All everything that occurs in this universe happens in waves. Everything that is sound, everything we're doing right now occurs in waves. So when there's very, very, very bad things happening in the world, I just remind myself that everything comes in waves, and you just got to ride the wave, and it's going to be really bad. Things are going to look really sad and devastating and hurtful, but you have to survive, and you have to watch, and you have to pay attention and be aware, because at some point, people are going to need you.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're going to need you. That's where I stay. That's where I stay in there. Is that they're going to need you. So it's important to survive and to be knowledgeable of what things are occurring, because it's it's a life or death situation.
And that's why I titled our conversation "A Conscious State of Emergency," because it is time we have to emerge and grow and become more aware and more aligned. Because the way the world is going, like you said, we're needed. And I was thinking of it earlier, and I said, if you're not reaching and striving to become the best version of yourself, which is in spiritual talk, as I like to say, you connecting with your higher self, you becoming the greatest version of yourself. If you don't strive and reach for that and become more aware of what you're doing, where you're going, who you're becoming, I don't think people are going to make it. And
No.
don't get me wrong, it's not meant for everybody. I get that. But the more we project ourselves, the more we give information, the more we educate, the more we coach, the more we align with like minded people, we're doing our part to save as many people as we can. Not so much save them from something, but save them from themselves
Mm-hmm.
and helping them figure out how to get to their path, because it's their journey alone. But like you said, we're needed as guides because we've already gone through a nice part of our journey getting there. And you have so many people who are so unaware of what's going on around them, let alone what's going on within them. And we're at a critical state globally, universally. We're at a critical state where if people don't start waking up, they're going to get sucked into this endless abyss of misery, suffering, danger, tragedy, trauma, more than they've ever realized. Because, like you said, these are waves that are happening, also cycles that are occurring. And if we really pay attention to what has already been, these cycles, they're no joke.
So,
They're no joke. I love how you put things up. You post things about what's going on with the planet, things that are going on in science. The different occurrences that are taking place. Solar flares. We got volcanoes. Earth is doing her thing.
right.
Not like she's never done it before. And right now, she's trying to catch up. She's trying to protect herself from everything we're doing to it on an
Right.
energetic level. And she's trying to say, no, I need you to raise your consciousness. I need you to align with me because I'm going with the rest of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
But I hate to say it like this, she's destroyed before to save herself.
Right.
And it's crazy because people are so distracted
So distracted.
with their money, with their relationships, and that's what society structures it on. It wants you
Mm-hmm.
to be unaware, because if you're distracted with outside things, you can't tune in to you. And
Right.
you always put up these posts where with the tuning, and you say, where does this resonate within your body when you hear that, when you hear the tone, when you hear the frequency? And I always sit right there, and I take my breath, and I always like to identify where I feel it. Okay, all right, what's spirit telling me? What's my body telling me? And am I
Right.
aligning with it? It's just really dope to finally get to have a conversation with you, and
I appreciate
and
it.
to express my appreciation for the work that you are doing, and your knowing, understanding, and knowing your purpose as an educator.
Well, like you said, one of the things that I'm learning, like when I post about like the quantum physics, and I post about like energy, and I post about climate change and all that stuff, is that we're all connected. Everything is connected, and I think that is the essence of quantum physics, is to remind people that everything is connected, even at the very cellular level, and that the thoughts that we have are energy, and they're energetic. Their frequency travels throughout the universe, not just between the two of us, but every thought that we have it creates something that occurs across the universe. And I think that's where we come into consciousness, is when I'm talking about, when I see something happen, like, they're proving quantum gravity wrong. I'm not, this is something new, or there's some volcanic eruption in Tonga, or the sea levels are rising over here, or the earth is heating up. That's not something I'm saying. I'm saying, for what I'm looking at, is that there are signs that people need to see in this world to show them how we have to become one.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other option. The universe is forcing us to become one with the universe. It's telling you to put down those things that divide us. Like you said, money and relationships, those are used to not only bring us together, but also divide us. When you have a relationship, you're supposed to be looking for that divine. If I'm masculine, I'm looking for that feminine to complete myself, that to complete my universal energy. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not there to find a wife, or somebody to bear my children. I'm here to complete that energetic need for me to move on with my purpose.
Right.
But people have to start looking at that, instead of looking at it as, I got a girl and she's walking to me every day and drinking coffee with me and fixing me breakfast, and doing my laundry and cleaning my house. You need to
Right.
look at, are you aligned energetically with this person? And is that person thinking and moving with you in alignment? And if you don't see that, then it's okay. You could go, and they might be that person in the morning, and they might not be that person at the nighttime. It's okay. It just, because energy is there. It's just sometimes it changes in there. You just have to understand that. In relationships, like you said, we've been lied to about the way relationships are supposed to go.
Yeah.
It's been a form of, and to me, and I'm not going to use this to discourage anyone from getting into a relationship, but it's an entrap. It's a form of, we use it as a form of binding, enslavement for some people, and instead it should be a love and a joyous occasion for people that even find out that somebody cares about you that much. But immediately we put the burden of, attachment, where you have to be around somebody forever till death do you part, and that's impossible. Like, I mean, I'm not telling people not to get married, but you got to understand. My parents have been married the entire time I've been alive, and I know why they've been married. I watch how they move energetically. They wear the same colors. My mom and my dad are the yin to their each other's yang.
Yeah.
They literally move like twin flames. You remember the movie? I don't know if you've seen the last Matrix movie, and it was beautiful.
Yeah.
The last Matrix movie, where
Yeah.
they actually featured Trinity
Yeah.
at the end, and she had to join up with Neo in
She had
order to beat the agent. I was like,
Yeah, they had to. It's that power, it's that power source. Like, it's
uh-huh.
incredible. And I just saw something the other day that was breaking down the traditional story of Adam and Eve. And they were saying, it wasn't two separate people. It was literally the masculine and the feminine energy, and the ego was the serpent. and it's about how trying to get you to want to understand what God, the divine, whatever, want what they know. And it's like, take from this tree this fruit, and you will understand, you will know. And it was also, I'm paraphrasing it, so it was also them describing actual birth and why we can't remember. Like they awakened in a different way when they ate the apple. They
Oh
realized they were
yeah.
naked. They said, "Oh my God!" They had awareness of self. Well, previously they did not have awareness, and it was the pains that they had to suffer through, and the knowledge that they had to gain, and the experience that they had to have through the process of life. So it was really intriguing. But you're so right about when it comes to union and partnership, the way the world structures it, or gives us the idea that you need to have another person to live out life, but not to complete mission.
Right.
Yeah, that's where the alignment comes in, because once you get to that point of self-discovery, self-awareness, knowing who you are and why you're here, you realize you're whole. And when you understand the law of oneness, you understand, okay, I'm one, complete. There is nothing missing, there's nothing lacking. But as a human being, I know I'm supposed to be in partnership some kind of way. It
Right.
does not necessarily mean marriage, because in that same example I was just describing, they never mentioned marriage. It
Right.
was union. It was two people, two energies coming together to complete the mission.
Right.
Now, once you find that oneness within self, the masculine and feminine energy, whatever it is your counterpart is, you're supposed to complete the mission together.
Right.
It's simple but complicated, and it has
Right.
nothing to do with falling in love.
Right. Right.
It has everything to do with reaching higher levels, higher states of you
Right. Right.
evolving. And I wish, well, I'm not gonna say I wish. I know people are understanding that now to a degree,
Yeah.
because they realize
Especially.
that traditional relationships are very much on the other side of suffering. You suffer,
Yeah.
you go through heartbreak, you go through heartache, you go through all those things, because if it's in alignment, like me too, my parents were married 47 years until my father transitioned, and they were like, they fit each other so perfectly. it was
Right.
it was kind of a disservice to witness, because growing up with societal norms and expectations and ideas, you think that's what relationship really is. We're really, on a soul level, they were meant to be,
Right.
actually had met so many times throughout the years before they actually met. I'd have to tell y'all later, like, the different encounters. But I always said YouTube was meant to find each other, and
Yeah.
the universe kept putting you right there, like literally
All
right
works.
there, until it finally was like, "Bing, here we are."
Right. Right.
So yeah, what do you love most about teaching, um, young minds, older minds? What do you love doing? What do you love teaching?
The best part about teaching, and I've recently got into the college level for the last 6 years. I just got tenure at the university, so I'm pretty proud of that. But
Congratulations.
the students, thank you. The teachers, I'm teaching future teachers now,
Okay.
and so I talk about impact. I've always looked at education because my mom was a full time. She was an educator her whole life, and she did counseling, and so I was always grading papers since I was like third, fourth grade. I've been grading papers and just being a little teacher helper, and I've been tutoring since I was in middle school, high school. I tutored in college, and two things I said I wasn't going to be was a soldier and
Uh-oh. He froze up.
but my mom,
Wait, you
she
froze.
inspired me to be a teacher.
Froze up. You
Most
froze up. You say you didn't want to be a soldier and a what?
two things I said I wasn't going to be because my dad was in the army, So I said I wasn't going to be a soldier or a teacher, and then
Oh,
I ended
okay.
up being a teacher a while. And I was a soldier for a while too. But the teaching part was I got into the classroom, and it was around 2006, and that was the same year around when we had a lot of the evacuees from Katrina came to Houston. And I had a lot of students that were from New Orleans, and I connected with them because I'm from Louisiana, but I was living in Houston at the time, so I could understand how the New Orleans kids was talking to the Houston kids. They would get into it. Then I would start to see, when I was talking, because I went to go teach because I was going to go to law school and become a lawyer. I was like, this is my plan, let me get some money and do all that stuff. But I got in the classroom and I recognized that there was an absolute imperative need for me to be in that room. Like, you don't, when you go into these rooms where when you send your child to school and there is not someone that looks like them standing in front of them, it is a difficult task. It is difficult for them to connect with that teacher.
Yeah.
And they will either be a target and get kicked out of school and maybe eventually end up in jail, or they can, be sent, in the system. And it was a systematic thing that I was watching ever since I started teaching, because I would be the one black teacher, the one male teacher on, in my team, or in the school. There was two other black male teachers. I think there was one other black male teacher. He was a coach at the school I started teaching at in Houston. And it was a huge school, had like 3,000 students. And there was a lot of black students there. It was I don't know if you ever heard of Langham Creek. They call it Gangham Creek in Houston. But it was a lot of gangs, a lot of bad, but the imperative for me to be there was absolute. And so when I started teaching, I was a math teacher, so I just knew I had to be there, and so I kept doing that. And I said I got to be an assistant principal because we got to hire more black teachers. And the way I look at it is people don't understand that it is a all out assault on the minds of our young or black and Hispanic brown kids in schools. They don't understand that. I don't think people get it. And by the time they get to third, fourth grade, they are being pushed into the prison system.
Yeah.
And people think, oh, no, it's not. They just got to go to school. And no, it is a school. It is an absolute school to prison pipeline
Yeah.
that people are totally ignoring.
Yeah.
And it's so obvious that they do it. That is why we need more people and look like us in those rooms. So when they're talking about Billy, who acted up in class on third grade, and you're a teacher on that team, you can say, well, Billy, let me go talk to him. I'll make sure he's okay. Let me walk Billy to class so he won't get in trouble. Let me make sure he can get to, where he needs to be. And I'm telling you, that's necessary to happen. We have to have, being an administrator and I've been a principal and assistant principal, you have to have people on campus that will do that for those children, because they are being attacked at every level. And I'm not saying to be scared to send your kids to school, but I don't know if I would do that right now. I would probably homeschool my child, because it is a tragedy what they're doing to our students right now.
Yeah.
The mental anxiety that they give them, just knowing that you could have somebody walk into your school at any time with an M16 or AK-47, and then you got the teachers that are just kicking kids out because they're putting their head down. I remember when the masks were a problem. I mean, the things that they do to incriminate our students at such a young age. There has to be people in that field to protect these students and to make sure that they get their knowledge and their information they need. Because otherwise, it's a bad situation, and they're going to end up incarcerated and put in the system. And I'm telling you, they do it purposefully. It's not my research. My research showed that the rules that they make in schools for the code of conduct, the handbooks, all that stuff was made like in the 70s and in the 80s. Those rules like dress codes and all that stuff were made like in the 60s and the 70s. before like the civil rights movement, and we integrated into these schools. When we integrated into these schools, they didn't change the rules. They just made the rules even harder to follow. And so they make all these rules hard. In my book, I read a book. I used to hate school. I can tell you, I was an assistant principal of a high school. It was an alternative school in Killeen, Texas, and they had rules like you can't wear 5 point. It was a gang affiliated. The Converse Chucks. I think at one point the 5 point Stars was affiliated with the Crips, and they used that to suspend students all the time. You can't wear white shoes. And kids would come in Jordans. They come in with all kinds of like, and I found myself I was suspending kids because of their shoes.
Hmm.
So I had to start bringing shoes
Yeah.
to school. Do you understand? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I saw was I on the wrong side? Like, was I the bad person? Was I the one that was participating fully in the school to prison pipeline? And that's what made me say to myself, I had to dedicate myself to ending it. I remember one time I had a student. I always tell this story because he was a good young man. He was a smart young man. He had some behavioral issues. They labeled him as ED, emotionally disturbed. If you understand what that is in SPED, we are um, overrepresented in special education as well. But this young man had ED, and so I talk to him every day. He usually just get in trouble. He doesn't fight. He's not one of those. He just argues with the teacher. He's just one of those students that argued with the teacher.
Combative.
And, you know what that sounds like in the classroom, and you know what it looks like on a referral. So it's two different things. But so he would come to my office, and he had to go to lunch D hall, and this is alternative school. So I got all, everybody is in my school. And so he had to go to lunch D hall. So we had to sit in the lunchroom and just be quiet for a moment and just sit there and get the food and walk out. And so somebody came to me and said, Dr. Jones, no, Mr. Jones at the time, he's in there, he's talking. And, I walk up to the room, I go into the cafeteria, and every time I walk in the cafeteria, silence, the whole cafeteria. So I'm like, okay, he's talking. So everybody's quiet. So I'm like, okay. So I tell him to come on. He comes up and comes up, meet me. I say, you good? He say, I'm good. I wasn't talking. I say, okay, it's whatever. Just come with me to the office. You can come sit in there with me. So I had the police officer with me, the school officer. The school officer, he says, boop, pushes him. Just like this on the back. Just pushes him. Just to scoot him down the hall. I tell you, the next 20, 30 minutes were like hell. We were in the office. My boy, he was sitting there. He was crying. Sweat just all down his face, all everywhere. He had a belt in his hand, sitting there, just leave me alone. Stop doing this to me.
Hmm.
Stop. What are y'all doing? Like he was just tears. I'm like, please just chill out, man. Calm down. Calm down. They brought in the police officers. They took this kid, put him in shackles from feet and his hands on the ground,
Mm-mm.
took him out of the school, and he was in JV juvenile for about 30 days till he had to go to court.
That's crazy. That's why it is so imperative for parents, whoever the guardians are, to be involved in the kids' education. Unfortunately, they use education or school as babysitting, where their kids can be while they go to work. And that's not what it's about. But like you said, the education system, especially for us, has been designed from the beginning to keep us in our place, so to
Yes,
speak. And
it's a
if we're
punishment system.
if it's a punishment system, that's that's why I feel like it's so imperative us as coaches to coach the adults, what have whatever youth programs we can have to get into the minds because we know what's going on in those schools. I watched it. I knew growing up, I said, my kids aren't going to regular school. And guess what? My son on his own was like, I don't want to go to school. I would prefer to be at home to do my education. By all means, yes, you can. It was music to my ears when he said that. It was like he gets it in a way that I didn't think that, my kid would, but there was no argument about it. But the idea that these kids are being groomed worse than what our generation and our parents' generation was.
Right.
These kids are demonstrating I'm not okay, not just psychologically, not just mental psychologically, not just emotionally, but spiritually, I'm not okay. And
Right.
until we collectively get into the hearts and the minds of those that are producing these children, it's going to be more of the same thing, and they're going to have more incarceration. This child is emotionally messed up, and
Right.
you increased it, and like you said,
Right.
it was hell. That child is living in their personal hell. And
Right.
as spiritual mentors and educators, it's up to us to help them learn and
Right.
unlearn what they're going through,
Right.
and instill them with what it is they're in alignment with, what it is they true who they want to be. I always say like that. What's that movie series? Divergent. Insert. What is it?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Was it?
You know what I loved about that? It literally gave you a test saying, what are you good at? What category are we going to put you in? Because that's where you go. That's where you get groomed. That's where you evolve and become greater. That's your expertise.
Um,
We should be doing that from jump. Overseas, they do it. I watched videos of them doing like preschool and all that in China and all this stuff, and they're literally have skill sets.
right. They
Skill
track them on that that level,
Yeah,
though.
they literally place them on that instead of overcrowding classrooms and just drilling them and teaching them all the same thing. At the same time, kids learn at different paces. Kids learn in different ways. Kids retain information differently, and you're literally creating little robots,
Right.
which is
Right.
why most of us were in the situations we were in growing up, thinking that life had to be one way, thinking that relationships had to be one way, thinking that you go get a job one way and that's it. No, you're a human being. You have multi avenues. You're multifaceted. You're a diverse individual.
Right.
That's what people don't get when it comes to learning. But first, we have to unlearn what has been taught and
Mhm.
reintroduce. I do belief clearing. I'm a belief clearing practitioner, and I help
Yeah.
people find the root of whatever they believe about themselves, and that too is a factor. Belief,
Yeah.
knowing, understanding, and being all collective. And if you are at home and you have, if there's abuse, if there's, instability, if there's poverty, if it's all these things that keep people in the red. I like to say you're in the red. You start out in the red. The school systems literally make sure you stay in the red
They,
until they say, okay, you're 18, now get out of here.
you're basically labeled. Only thing that carries on from school to school, you get your grades, but they also send your discipline record too with you, and that's crazy because you don't have teachers are interact with different students in different ways, and you're gonna end up. I would have a student they can go through 8 different classes a day, and two of those teachers I knew it was gonna be over for them by the time they got to them. I took them away from that teacher, they make it through the day. Put them
Yeah.
in there with the teacher, it was over. And one thing you said is about our students, they need to know themselves. If you look back to, the foundation, this is why it's important to know the history. You look back at the foundation of America, the Constitution was based off of the Iroquois Confederacy, and it was based off of what they thought of. So it was based off of what black people thought. And they just perverted it to make it fit what, their patriarchal needs. And then you actually have the pyramid for Bloom's taxonomy, I believe it's a pyramid that they use to say what levels of understanding that students should be at. And they actually took that pyramid from the Iroquois and they flipped it upside down. But the
Mhm.
first rung on the pyramid for the Iroquois importance was self-actualization. Like before you can build up on that student, they need to know who they are. Self-actualization is the foundation for
Yeah.
education, and then you build up from there. Once
Yeah.
they know how powerful and what they're capable of doing and who they are, then they're able to build up on that. And that's
Mhm.
one thing that I was privy to in my life is my parents were outstanding examples for me to how I should live. My dad is a spiritual leader. They have their own little, oh, they have a Bible class that they go to and all that stuff. And I went for a while, but I knew that at some point that I had to follow that because it's in my DNA. I understood what DNA meant in a long time. I understood genetic traits. I understood biology, reproduction, like those things I understood. So I looked at what they were doing, and it's hard because everybody's not going to have that kind of upbringing. But it just goes to the fact that understanding who you are at a young age is vitally important to survival
Yes.
and to getting through this just through this capitalist nightmare that they have for us we have to go through now.
Mhm.
But just to make it through that, because it's not going to be, because once you get through it, you graduate, you get your college degrees, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But we got to get them through that part because
Yeah.
that part is meant to set them up to fail. And people think, oh, don't go to college, you don't need a degree, you don't need a diploma. Yeah, if you're excellently skilled at something that you can do, yeah, then you probably don't need it. But if you just lack at those skills, they're going to use the lack that you don't have a high school diploma. They're going to use the fact that you don't have a college degree against you to keep you in positions where you're never going to be able to succeed.
Yep.
And so now when you get those tools or those documents, now they can't use it against you to say, oh, he didn't have a high school diploma, or he didn't know how to read, or she didn't know how to, get a degree. So when people talk about don't go to school, you know, I'm determined to give make every tool that I could possibly have to
Yeah.
keep them from putting me in shackles. So,
Yeah.
and I know that's a big statement for people to make, but if y'all don't understand what's happening in the world right now, is that they're trying to put people back in shackles.
Yes.
They're trying to go back to slavery, and people
Yes.
are like, "No, they can't do that."
Yes,
Do
they
you
can.
see what's going on in the Middle East right now? Do you
They're
see what's going on in Gaza?
psychological. They're doing. You
They
have to do it
and mentally, yeah,
psychologically.
they already got you enslaved. Anybody that would go fight in these wars is a slave.
Yep.
Period. I don't care what they think they are. If they can make you, they could give you the mental capacity to go and drop a bomb on a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
You
It,
are totally enslaved.
yeah. It's like they run you through we've seen it in movies where they run you through some chamber and all of a sudden your mind is no longer yours. You've literally been programmed to be something else. That's the extreme. That's the extreme. You know, my dad served. He was in the army as well. He served in Nam, and that's the extreme. And he despised everything during that process.
Mhm,
That is the extreme. The lesser is what you watch on television, what you
mhm,
listen to on the radio, what kind of conversations you partake in, all of those things. That's just that's the mass programming.
right,
And that's why I say unlearning is just as important as learning or relearning the
right,
things that are going to benefit you. Not just let's take spirituality off the table, just your mental health, just your
right,
mental health. You know, we're poisoning our body. We're uneducated. We're
mhm,
how we treat each other. We're horrible
right.
to each other. We're
Horrible.
horrible to each other. And we turn our nose up at the smallest little thing. We are literally, and that's why I said that's why all of these things that you post about, that's why all of these things are taking place. Earth is
Mm-hmm.
not on a good frequency. Thank goodness there's millions of us. Let's be clear. There's millions of us who are doing this work to assist in keeping the frequency up as best we
Right.
can.
Yeah.
And we have to continue this work, educating, inspiring, motivating, so that at least we're because we're getting by just by a little hair. To me, it just seems like a little hair. But we
Mm-hmm.
also understand it's not going to be an overnight thing. It's not going to be an
Right.
overnight thing. We probably will not live to see the next result of evolution.
Right.
But guess what? I'm glad to be a participant on this end
I
of
will do.
everything. What people do when they're raising their children, when they're having these relationships, like I said, relationships, your finances, all of that is a contributing factor to the result of these young minds. It's
Right.
literally if you're in an impoverished household, you're not thinking about happiness, you're not thinking about joy, you're not thinking about fulfillment, you're not excited about going to work, you're dreading those things. And then
Right.
your children are gonna literally feel the dread. If you're not happy in the home, why should they go to school happy? Why
Right.
would they approach their friends in a happy energy? Because their friends are going through the same thing. Their
Right.
friends are faced with the same issues. Their friends are probably hungry too. You can't ask for a child to come to school, be at their best,
Mm-hmm.
demonstrate their greatness, and their stomach is growling. It
Exactly.
just doesn't happen. But
Right. And you,
the mental things that parents go through, people go through, is so imperative to find that thing, find those things that bring you that fulfillment, that joy, that happiness, that wholeness. That you have to find it in order for that change to begin to take place.
right. Right.
And that is the root of it. Once again, they've distracted us so much to the point where we won't do the work that is the most important work compared to going
Right.
to a job, which is just a job you had to pay those bills. When in
Right.
fact, when you do your work, you'll have more than enough to pay those bills.
Right.
You'll be in a better place to pay those bills, a better set of bills,
Yeah.
and your
Whole
relationship,
set,
your
whole
children.
different life.
Yeah, and they then will follow that lead.
Yeah.
But you got so many people that just don't want they want to fight you on it because they want to stay stuck right there.
But I try to, and I know I have lots of people that I work with and that are have literally like bringing people into this world, and they're trying to mold them into great adults and great children. They set great examples, and then when you see what they're continuously exposing their children to. Still though, even though they're doing great parenting, and I'm not criticizing them at all, but still putting them in those situations of a lack and comparison and showing their student that you know I'm always been a proponent for getting taken away grades in schools. Like we don't need to have grades, no homework, and that the thing that you mentioned about the teachers, about the students, not being able to connect because of they're having a bad time at home. You know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs states that they need to have their food in their belly, so that you can't teach somebody without them having uh, something to eat because they're going to be focused on how their stomach is empty the whole time. And
Yeah.
that's true. And if they don't have shelter, they're going to be thinking about that all the time. So you have to meet those needs first before you can teach any of your students. And one of the craziest things that they're doing right now is getting rid of free school lunches. And to me, that is the most important thing that we need to provide for our students in these public schools because they come to school a lot of times. Their only meal, their
Yep.
only meal was that school lunch. The only meal they had for the day. was the school breakfast, and
Yep.
they're taking that away, and that's why I talk about they do things on purpose. Is
Hmm.
because they had too many. The reason why they were mad at the Black Panthers wasn't because they were, militant. They want them to be out there militant and showing out and looking angry like angry black people. They
Hmm.
want they were mad that they were providing school lunches, breakfasts, free breakfasts to kids. That these kids were getting something to eat.
Hmm.
That's what they were mad about. That's why they stopped the Black Panther. That's why they did all the things. That's why they ran up on Fred Hampton. That's why they did everything. It's because they were helping feed like the food and like hunger is we're at a hunger crisis. We've been in a hunger crisis since the 80s. But hunger is a weapon. They weaponize these things against us. They weaponize poverty. They weaponize religion. They weaponize all these things. Like Richard said, they social engineer a society to be collectively ignorant. And they use all these things to push us back to where we're questioning people around us, where we become hateful of things that we don't understand instead of trying to like learn new things and to
Hmm.
grow into, and instead of trying to travel to a different country. The biggest thing, every time I tell somebody that I'm going to another country, every time, it doesn't matter what country I go to, they tell me, oh no, they're crazy over there. Oh, they're
Right.
eating people. They're terrorists. They'll shoot you. They don't like black people over there. Every single country. I told somebody, I was sitting next to somebody the other day. He was a black gentleman from, I think he was from the UK, and he was like, he was talking with somebody else about Cambodia, and he was sitting there, and the guy was like, "Yeah, you should go to Cambodia. It's nice." And the guy was like, "No, they eat us in Cambodia." And I'm sitting there next to this guy, and I'm looking at him, and and I didn't say this. I was like, I was just in Cambodia for 2 weeks, and nobody ate me. But I
Nobody
mean,
ate
I was looking
me.
at him like, that's crazy that somebody would say that about those people, but that's where they build things up to
Yeah.
make you just sit and not think the world is greater, to demonize people, to
Right.
create this narrative of I should be scared of everything in the world. And trust me, there are dangerous places in this world to go to.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
the things that they tell you, that they feed you in this media or these movies is absolutely ridiculous.
But
Like
that.
some of the like, and they play on that. They use that to keep
Yeah.
you in America, in their prison industrial complex, and they're working for them, paying the taxes to them for high priced eggs. They do it to keep you in there when you can
Yeah.
literally be a millionaire in another country just
Think
by
about it.
just getting on a plane and landing there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you could be rich as soon as you land in
Soon as you
another
land.
country.
Yeah. Think about it like this. This is the next level of our slave mentality to stay in that bubble. Remember, once upon a time, there were certain black people saying, "Let's get off this plantation. We can go."
Right.
Some said, "No, no, no. I'm not going anywhere. I'm gonna stay right here," because that's their comfort zone.
The comfort zone,
So
right?
then, once they left the plantation, now we're in our little towns. Hey, let's go to another state. Let's go up north. Let's go out west. Let's do something. No, no, no. I'm gonna stay right here. That's their comfort zone. So now that
That's
we've
right.
branched out, and mind you, this is less than 200 years.
Right.
Less than
Yeah, that's
200
right.
years. So now that we're nationwide, there's some of us that are going global, and they're like, nah, I'm not doing that. It's the same. It's just the evolution of that mentality, that fear
Right.
mentality that's been placed. When you look at it, there's people in other countries that go to other countries on a daily basis. They
Daily
know
basis.
multiple languages. They know multiple languages. They know multiple
Right.
cultures. They can identify. We can't tell what country somebody is from just based on how they speak. And guess what? We have the nerve to turn our noses up at them. But we're the ones who are uneducated, unaware, and based in fear. Whereas,
Yes.
you sit and you think about it and you're like, but this whole world is for all of us. I should be able to go out and enjoy it and not be stuck and restricted in this space. Well, that is the mind of fear that has constantly played out and been placed for you to think, if I stay in my little bubble, then
Right.
nothing will happen to me. But
Right.
when you stay in that little bubble, everything won't happen for you.
Right.
Nothing but what you're used to. And that's what we're faced with right now. Just like you said, going to school. They teach you go to school, graduate, go to college, get a job. Nobody says, hey, take a year off, go explore the world, go
Yeah.
travel.
Take your gap year.
Yeah, take the time off. You just overloaded yourself with 12 years of people programming you. Now go out there and go explore. You
Right.
know?
That,
We
that
don't we
was the
don't do
biggest
that.
thing I saw. I've learned with traveling is that these kids that live in other countries, they get gap years. They call it a gap year, and I'm like, a gap year. As soon as I graduated, I went straight to college. But they have a
Yeah.
gap year where they could just travel the world and do whatever they want before they decide what they're gonna marry. I was like, that's crazy.
Perfect example is on the Cosby show. Denise did it.
Oh, Denise
Let
did
me
do
go
that.
find myself. Remember when it was shunned upon? Let
Yeah.
me go find myself.
Hmm.
Those
Right.
are the ones
Denise
who
was
can.
smart.
Well, you have to go to college. No, I don't have to go right away. It's there.
Right.
Let me go live life and have experience. See, that's the
Right.
generation of, if you don't do it in this particular order, then you're doing it wrong. No, I'm doing it my way. I'm doing it the way that I'm called to do. If I want to go backpacking in Europe or go on an African adventure for a while, then let me do that and then decide, oh, this is what I really want to do. This is what I'm
Right.
called to do. This is what my spirit is saying I'm supposed to do. But instead, we, like, once again, we restrict ourselves. And people say, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. Before college was available for us to
Right.
get what's considered higher education, it was, by the time you reach a certain age, you go get a trade, because it was still that survival mode mentality. You got to go get a trade so you can get a job and do that thing to pay your bills. Nobody ever talks about living life. Nobody talks about being a creator. Nobody talks about being the best version of yourself and being an expression and what it is that you're supposed to contribute to this world. Nobody talks about those things until now. We are the ones who are educating the adults who are now also educating, we're educating our children to be able to do those things. I raised
Right.
my son, who from the time he was 6 years old, I start asking him, what do you want to do when you grow up? Who do you want to be?
Right.
And to this
Right.
very day, this very moment, he is doing exactly what he wants to do,
That's
how he
nice.
wants to do it. Because we're not getting ready to do the same old, and you know, go into debt before you even get a degree, and
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. But that's the American way
That's America. Yeah.
of programming,
Right.
and we have to unlearn
I'll learn it.
so that we can learn who we are, what we're supposed to be doing, what feels right, self awareness.
Yeah.
Who are you? You just said it, self actualization. Who am I? And what
Right.
are the heights I want to take this to? How far do I want to take this? Because that's what life is supposed to be about. You find those things that you're passionate about, take it as far as you can go until you can take it no more.
Right.
Do that thing that brings
Exactly.
you joy. Bring that thing that takes you to the highest elevation in you, and you will never suffer. Your relationships will never suffer. I'm not gonna say never. Your relationships won't, or least likely to suffer. I mean,
Right.
it's just that thing of knowing thyself is something
Right.
that should be taught in very early in age,
Very early age.
so that way life seems a bit easier as we go through our changes, because it's not meant for us to not go through those changes and hiccups and pitfalls and all. It's not meant for that, but it does make the trip easier, so we're not dealing with as much depression, not
Right.
dealing with as much mental issues and anxieties and all those things, and we won't be popping pills to
Right.
to figure it out. It's like, no, you
Right.
know how to tap in. You know how to, okay, ask yourself those questions. Figure out what do I want? Not what they told me that I want, but what do I want? What sits right with me? What's good with my spirit?
Yeah. Exactly.
Where do you see at this point? Because you're a bit more worldly than I am. Where do you see on a conscious level those of us that are here in the States per se? Do you see us beginning to integrate and blend with other demographics as we venture out?
Uh, I think one of the things I was thinking about when you're talking was that our people are naturally nomadic. Like we've gotten to this idea. If we wonder why, when people are like, "Well, Africa is Egypt, and Egypt is Africa, and South America is, all," it's because our people always moved around the planet. Like we naturally migrated because it's a natural thing to do. And so now when we get in this moment where we're here, where you got real estate, you got to stay certain places. We've been caught up in that situation now where people don't think they can move because their houses cost so much, or they're that's pretty much what it is the real estate is a tool of colonization and all that stuff. I can go into that by how I feel about that, but our people are naturally nomadic, and so we should be comfortable with just getting up and leaving and moving around and doing things. So as far as us integrating into the society, I think that me, from what I'm witnessing, just saying at a large scale, we're not being allowed to integrate. They getting rid of the policies and things. I used to speak on DEI all the time, like those, and like I used to speak on, uh, you know, helping the students, the multicultural situations, and trying to be diverse and engaging in diversity in the classroom and meeting the needs of all the students in there. And I spoke on that a lot. And the stuff I speak about is illegal. They sent me an email the other day at my job asking me if my classes have anything in DEI. And I teach Introduction to Inclusive Teaching, which is, a course that you inclusive. And I teach another class that talks about human growth and development, and it their talks about diversity. And the fact that they're telling us that those things are not okay to talk about right now, and we're still trying to integrate into society. Um, if I were to be in any situation right now, I'd be more Marcus Garvey leaning. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, well, he was right. Exodus stage right. It's time to go. Because we put too much into this system, into this economy, into the United States, too much effort into helping these people. For them to be so ungrateful for all the things that we've done for them, we should just pick up and go and move to Mexico. I'm just saying, every last one of us would
I
just
keep
leave.
I keep making this joke to my mama, and I keep saying, "Mom, why we just don't give it to them? This is let them have it. They can have
Just
it
let them have it.
because
It's
if you look at it, it's really not. It's it's already the energy here. It's going to take twice as long to reverse it. And I'm
ways.
talking from the time those first ships start coming over and the natives was looking like, what's that? That's how
Yeah.
long, that's how far I'm going back with it. It's going to take
Right.
that much time for it to,
Come
and
back.
I'm like, let's just let them have it because I know when I'm in different places and I'm in those beautiful, peaceful environments, I'm like, it's not the
Anxiety.
same. It's totally
No.
not the same. And that's why I feel like, my life going forward is travel for the rest of my life, just to explore and see the world. But for people that want to stay in that small thing, like you said, they don't want you to integrate. So why
No.
don't we just let them have it? There's more than enough everything else.
Everywhere we're
There's more
accepted
than enough.
worldwide. Like I feel like a celebrity. Everywhere I go, I feel like a celebrity. Like they treat me like I get every free stuff everywhere I go.
Oh,
I'm not
absolutely.
saying I'm a celebrity because I'm just saying they give me free stuff everywhere I go. They treat me like a king.
Right.
Every country that I travel to, when I go to Thailand and Singapore and Bali And when I go to Egypt, they treat me like a king. Like they treat me, everything is free. They treat me like I'm royalty
Nice.
everywhere I go. I
Let me
promise you, it's hard to even hang out somewhere where somebody's not giving me free stuff. I'm like,
give you
okay, it's all
something.
right. Like
Yeah,
rides, like I mean, it's a literal
it's beautiful.
flip
Yeah,
from America. You
it's
know, and it's crazy, and people want to still stay there. And I tell people, okay, you can stay there, but understand, climate change is real as well. The Midwest is being devastated by tornadoes, massive windstorms. Louisiana's about to be underwater. Do y'all understand?
you see
Florida's
what's
about to
ready
be
to happen up
underwater.
in Oregon, and
Oregon is about to have a big old tsunami.
all of it.
California is about to be underwater. New York's about to be underwater, and you want to stay there?
Yeah,
What, you going to stay in Cleveland?
because
Like,
what's happening? What's happening? The energy is
yeah,
shaking up. Everything is
it's
stirring up. It's telling you the frequency is off. And I'm
it's
sorry,
off.
I'm a, a true believer of the split. So it doesn't feel like that over here. It's like I'm aware of it, but I feel like I'm like, okay, this has got to be the parallel situation that I'm talking about because
Mhm.
I'm not seeing any of it. I see it over there, but and I had a I'll tell you about this offline one day. The vision that I had, and I actually saw it taking place, and I saw me on the other side of this, and I'm like, okay, how is it that I can go to all these different places and don't have these same kind of experiences? It's weird, but I'm learning it as it's happening. But what people need to be aware of, you're it's yes, it's terrifying when you think about it. But that's when, religious people say, oh, you got to get right with God. You got to get right. You should be right with God, period. You
I
should
hate that's like one of my worst. That's like, oh, it gets on my nerve when people
you
say
are
that to
right.
me.
You are right with God. But you really have to be right with yourself
Right with yourselves when
and
God
be
is talking
right
to
with
you.
those around you.
Right.
Not saying that nothing is not going to happen, but at
Right.
least you go out and you say, I'm not afraid. I'm not in fear. What will be will be. And so it is.
I'll give you an example. Have you seen you know I Show Speed?
Mm-mm.
He's a creator. He's a streamer. Big, probably one of the most popular streamers on the planet. I was on the beach the other day. They were calling me I Show Speed. He's like as popular as Kai Cenat. Like him, and they do videos together. I don't know if you know him either, but he was a
Mm-mm.
streamer and he was a young black man. And everywhere he did a tour of Asia. So he went to Thailand. He went to Singapore. He did kung fu in Mongolia, China. They had him like Chinese people, like they were like literal massive crowds. Bro. They were treating him like Michael Jackson. Like he was going everywhere, and he was just integrating himself in the culture, doing things. I mean, the kid was having an outstanding, wonderful time, and you was going everywhere, and you could see him like literally connecting with the people in the countries. Like China is not so bad. Like he was sitting there, China is great. He was over there, Thailand is great. He was like Singapore is, I love it here. He came back to America, went to KFC. Why did they call the cops on him? He's sitting on the corner crying because they called the cops on him when he came back to the United States. This man traveled the entire planet.
A lot of snack.
Not one interaction with police officers. He streams his whole life. Everything he does is streamed. And he came back to the United States, went to KFC, and the police is on him. This is a young black millionaire. Get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I remember when they told, after Ryan Coogler made Black Panther 2, I think it was the second one or the first one, he went to the bank
I remember.
and they tried to arrest him. I mean, he was at the bank. Like, this man is
Yeah.
a millionaire director
Uh-huh.
with, they mistook him for a bank robber.
Yep.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They put a target on your back
Yeah.
and they want to lynch you. They'll do this on purpose.
They
So
want to.
my advice to anyone that wants to speak like I talk and talk about the stuff that I talk about and travel the world, just know that there is a target on your back.
Mhm.
Okay? I'm just letting you know. And so if you want to stay over there with them, just know you're an easy target.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
why I move the way I move. And I don't tell everybody that, but there are people in here. There's only 10 people in here now, so I can
Yeah.
talk to y'all
That's
about it.
that's fine.
But I move around because I watched Judas and the Black Messiah. I
Mhm.
seen the autobiography of Malcolm X. I know, and they weren't even talking the way I talk. Malcolm was a little bit on that direction, but he couldn't speak that way. He couldn't tell the truth because he was in the Nation of Islam. That's why they killed him. That's why when they figure out that when he went and saw that there were all these white Muslims all over the world and Asian Muslims and it's everywhere.
They
That's
don't
what the
want
problem was
unity.
when he came
They don't.
back.
They don't want unity, and that's
They
what
don't
we
want it.
are. We are one. And the moment we realize that, the powers that be, they're going to lose the control that they have fought so hard to keep. And
Right.
it's that's why our work is so imperative, to help people realize, wake up, and make their own moves. It's
Right.
it's it's very challenging. Like I said, I'll say it again. The unlearning is the hardest thing for me, because there's been years I've doubted. I've been doing this work 20 years now, on myself as well as with others. And the thing about it is when people go, we go back and forth about what they've been raised to believe, and what I present, or how I speak, how I move, and what I know. And when they want to challenge me, because I don't challenge them, they want to challenge me. I always say, well, think about it like this: what if you learn this first rather than that? It's just a
Right.
matter of what came first. And you have been taught, when you're taught to close yourself off and to restrict yourself from knowing anything, or believing anything else outside of this, that to me is already telling you this is a control factor. This is
Right.
something that they want to disempower you with, because everything that I believe, everything that I teach, everything that I learn tells you, go seek, go explore, go converse with people with different ideas, go get different understanding and perspective. Because what? Because we're one. That's what we're here for, to learn from one another, to make ourselves more. For me to be able to sit at a table with my friend who's a Buddhist, and my other friend over here who's Jewish, and the other one over here who's Muslim, like, and the four of us sit here and have a whole conversation. I'm getting nuggets from each of them because I'm non-denominational, so it doesn't matter. I'm like, wow, y'all do that? Okay, cool. Well, that sounds familiar. You guys do the same thing, and you guys do the same thing. Oh my God, that's really dope. Now it's taking you to a whole another level of unity, oneness, compassion, and respect. I respect the fact that all of you guys have a different perspective of this one thing, which is everything. And once
Everything.
people get to know that, it's incredible, and it just opens you up in the best of ways, but also in the not so best of ways, because then what you sometimes say. I wish I didn't know that. I just really wish I didn't know that.
That's the tough part. Sometimes
Yeah.
knowing is the part. It's the burden is knowing a lot of times. It's knowing that knowing too much. My dad told me I knew too much. He told me that years ago. I was like, he said, I know when I hear people speak to me, I know it's more the word that this is a reflection of what's going on that's inside of me. And so I
Yeah.
don't take anything anybody ever says to me personally. I know that if I have a thought in my mind, it'll come to form in the present, and somebody will repeat it to me. Like if I think I'm fat, and somebody gonna come say, "Ooh, you looking like you just," that'll just be the way things happen for me. So I
Right.
try not to think about negative things. But when he said that, I was like, well, that makes sense because we do decide we are engineered to keep ourselves in a certain mindset, and people don't realize that they don't, because one, I think you're a mindset coach, right? And so the biggest thing from people is to get out of that fixed mindset and go into a growth mindset. But people just it seems so simple because people
Things.
don't realize that they're not growing. They don't realize a lot of times that they're just literally staying stagnant in their position and whatever they're doing, and then they can just branch out a little bit and get to know. Like one thing I've learned about when traveling is that you could be a doctor in any country. You can just travel to the country and you can go to school there and become a medical doctor. And you don't
Yeah.
have to go to medical school in America. You could be a lawyer in any country. You could be an engineer. You could travel. And the things that you say, oh, I have to have a job here, the thing that I target, the thing that I've always had for all of my schools everywhere in the world, everywhere that I've worked at, was to increase the awareness of the global market. Get our students ready for the global digital market. Because everywhere is a place to make money now. It's not just the United States. And it has to be that way, especially now with all the things that are happening in the world. You're going to have to move around. You're going to have to know how to network with people that don't look like you. You have to know how to network with people from across the world immediately, like at the drop of a dime. You
Yep.
got to know how to do that. And so I'm now we're getting more closer to that with the digital age. It's making it easier. Because when I said that, these things, you couldn't even do this on TikTok when I was saying that we need to get ready for the digital market. But now we can do these things, and people are selling, making thousands and thousands of dollars
A
on a
day.
TikTok shop.
A
Yeah, like
day.
so obviously I was right about something. Like you got to get
Yeah.
ready for the digital market. You got to be able to get on TV or get on a phone and talk to people about what you're selling and to give them an understanding. And this is going to be more important than going to a 9 to 5 each day. And so,
Yep.
like
Because
I
those
was,
are coming to a close.
yeah.
Those
And
are
so,
coming to
like, we
a
have to be
close.
ready for the change in the world. Schools are not going to look the same in 10 years. I hope not. I mean,
I hope not.
that's,
I hope not.
I
I
guess.
hope not too. Because
I hope not either. It's like I know 10 years from now, if things are going, we gotta start thinking like, are we preparing our children
right.
what's to come? Because
Precisely.
if we're not gonna do anything about like climate change and artificial intelligence, and like we're just gonna let them go crazy and see what happens. That's what
Yeah.
I'm looking at, artificial intelligence, and we're not gonna do anything about climate change. So two things I see: we're gonna have to be ready to migrate, and you're gonna
Hmm.
have to be able to understand what a robot tells you to do something, you better do it. No, I'll just say you gotta be able
That's what it's coming to. That's what I'm like. Oh, you said okay.
okay. I mean,
Yeah.
I talk to my chat GPT. I talk to them nicely now. Just like, okay, it's good. Thank you. You
And you
did
know what?
this.
I know I think my girl Des was in here. Me and Chat GPT, we just not even. I don't even want to introduce myself to it yet. It's just
Oh
like
man.
I don't know. I still want to. I want to bask in the ability to use my mind to create because it is that powerful, and I
It
feel
is.
like AI is a cheat code. It's I think it's the lazy way. And I'm like, I spent all these years opening my mind and allowing creativity to flow through and ideas and things, and I know how to tap in to make that happen. But I'm not gonna shun, technology because I do want to utilize it at some point, but the proper way, whatever that is. But I take pride in my son being knowledgeable. He is all tech. Like he builds gaming PCs and stuff from scratch. So it's like when it came down to him being small and having that interest, all I did was help nourish it. Like because I knew that was the future. You're not gonna be lost in it. You're gonna have some type of understanding of the technology, the terminology, the culture, all of that. And I'm like, whew, okay, cool. He's good. Yeah, that's just the way the world is going. But people are, and this is how I feel about especially our society. It is the old mentality dying, and they keep trying to resurrect it. And
That's
it's like,
exactly.
no, if you don't, your 9 to 5 is not. If we learned anything from the pandemic, you know, those things can be gone like that. Okay,
Yes.
if you don't have a skill set, if you don't have a hustle, If you don't have a dream or a vision that you haven't tapped into yet, you need to get on it. It's like I said, we're in a state of emergency now. Like, don't wait till the last second for them to give you that little slip on your desk saying it's your last day. I learned that very early in my 20s. I got laid off from the same job twice. And it's just like I moved into an apartment on Saturday, and Monday went to work and got laid off. It was just, it happens like that for a reason, for me to be able to sit here and have that experience, and to sit here and tell people, do not rely on what somebody hands you.
All right, that's true.
Build, create, tap in, figure it out. I did a post about it. If you feel stuck, go do something that you are really, really good at. Everybody's good at something. Everybody's good at something. They got people that's getting online giving gossip stuff about TV. You know what I'm saying? Giving news tips, some how to translate the news and politics and all that stuff. Anybody can do anything. You're good at something. Do it. And keep doing it until you figure out how to monetize it and how it's going to help you grow, so you can keep making those moves. Because if you stay at that job I know somebody working the same two jobs for over 20 years. The same two.
That's crazy.
No elevation, no change, no nothing. Just flatline, plateau.
Retirement checks, no?
I mean, yeah, you get that, but what have you done with your life? You haven't
Right.
gone anywhere. This very person goes back to the same place every year on her 2 weeks off. You know where she goes? Back home where she grew up to go see her high school. Stuck. There's no judgment, it's an observation. It's just the fact that some people choose not to evolve. Not mad at you if that's what you choose. But for those that do want to evolve, those that do want more, those that do want something better than what life has offered them, you got to get to work. You got to get to work, because when somebody hands you something, it does not have the same value as when you build it, create it, and manifest it yourself.
Right.
It does not have the same value.
That's true. That's so true.
Well, I have enjoyed this conversation with you, and I hope to have more
For sure.
as you keep giving us our headlines as to what's going on. I don't watch the news, but I get a lot of my news from you. I'm like, wow, this is going on with CERN and this setting.
I'll try to make it as palatable as possible. This stuff is crazy out here. I mean,
It really is.
I look at some of the things and I'm just like, what? But
Yeah.
I get excited about the scientific part about it. Like, me, I get excited about the aliens because that's an option.
Yeah.
I get excited about the quantum physics, and I get excited about just astro. I think that since everything is connected to the stars and the things, I think that the stars, everything that there's going on with UFOs are signs and things for us to see that, hey, everything's going to be okay. We're not going to let these fools destroy y'all.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that, but that's what they're doing. That's what their intent is. But all I hear is my ancestors telling me, you are protected from these crazies. Just keep moving the way you're moving. And these are some signs for you to see, not for everybody to see, because everybody don't follow me. I could have 1 million, 2 million followers. Everybody don't follow me. I lose more followers than I gain. That things are going to be okay. Even though it looks like they're about to throw a nuclear bomb over there, it's going to be all right. Because we're more than just physical bodies. We're everything that's around us. And they want you to think that you're just your physical body. And like you can just die and it's over with. That's what they want you to be fearful of. And that's not the truth. The truth is you're going to be here forever. Your spirit never dies. And that's what they're trying to get you. They want you to think, oh, there's a heaven and a hell, and that's the end. No, it's not the end. The light, your energy is eternal, and that your frequency that vibrates and reverberates throughout the entire universe. And you are a supernatural being. And the more that they do these crazy things around the world, they're trying to show you, they're trying to make you believe that that's not true. Because you're not flying like Iron Man over there to go stop them. So that's like, oh, you're not a suit. Remember when this is the example that they use in the church. When Jesus went to the wilderness to be tested by the adversary, Satan or whatever, and he was there and he was like, do this, do this. If you can walk on water, walk on water. Testing them to make them do something that and I'm not saying Jesus is real or anything, but I'm just saying that that is what they use when you're here in this situation now. They're just testing. They want you to use your ability to show, okay, you're the telepath, you're the telekinetic that we don't. You're the one that we're targeting here now. You're the
Yep.
reason why we're calling these places up because they're scared of the black Messiah. They're scared. It's not one black Messiah. It's everybody. It's not just one of them. That's what they don't know. It's all of us. If we
Right.
all woke up, that will scare the hell out of
That's
everybody. If
what that's
everybody
what they're
in
trying to hide.
Africa, Brazil, China, if everybody knew and just embraced the truth, it'd
Yep.
be over for them fools. Because
Yep.
they're the minority. But because that we don't understand it, and we're talking about each other, Asians do this, Muslims do this, Christians do this, blah blah blah. We keep talking bad about each other, and then they just laugh at us because they're like, okay, here we go. This made it easier, so we can just walk in their government like in Burkina Faso. Luckily, they like him over there.
Right.
At Burkina Faso, they just had a coup, and then they're still trying to take the guy down from over there. And that young man is speaking facts, like literal. All he done is state
He's
facts.
changing so much, and that's what they're terrified of. It's been long
Terrified.
coming because guess what? It's just like Pac said. I'm not gonna be the one to change the world, but I'm gonna be the one that sparks the mind of the one that's gonna change the world. And if
Right.
you look at history, it's been a process. It's been a process. And one thing that I always say when it comes to things like that, when you want to destroy it, because that's what they do,
That's what they do.
you can't destroy the idea. Once the idea is put out there, it's in the universe. It's real. And it's not only one person, it's multiple. So 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 Abraham is literally sparking the minds of many, 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 many other. It is contagious. It is like a virus, just in a good way.
Because you could hear him. Because listen to what Abraham said, and you could hear him, and he spoke, and he talked, and he had a military uniform on with a red beret. Then you had Michael Langley, the general, 4 or 5 star general for the United States of America, a black man sitting there, and he said the words that the exact same thing. He was talking like this man was the enemy. He spoke as though this dude was bad, and everybody knew the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Every person knew the difference between what he was saying and what Langley was saying and what Ibrahim was saying. That is the consciousness that they're afraid of. They're afraid that people are the evil and are being totally exposed now. It's so apparent who is
Because
on the side of good and who's on the side of evil. Because the people we thought were good, I mean, we think, oh yeah, Trump is a good guy, a bad guy. When we think about Biden, and we're like, man, he bombed 50,000 kids. So I mean, like, we can't be thinking that who's evil or not. They both on the same team. And now if you see that, now if you see what's happening, you're like, oh dang. Okay, now we just watch them duke it out between each other because they're gonna keep on making. I was telling them earlier. I said they're gonna make up another terrorist event for us to get mad at each other about again. And so be aware of that. Just know
yeah,
that's
be
coming.
aware. It's
Yeah,
it's it's always coming. That's how.
it's
That's
always
how.
coming.
What do we say? The waves and the cycles. The waves and the
Waves
cycles.
and they people need to understand they use astrology to plan these events. They use the count. They use all this stuff
They
to make
figured it
sure.
out. Wait, they figured it out that way, and they're telling us that it's not real. Don't believe it, and all this other stuff. But that's how you've been functioning all this time. That's how you understand how this all goes. So now you can manipulate and control the masses by distracting them with everything else. It's incredible.
Right.
It's
It's
incredible.
crazy. It's
Well,
it's a way.
I,
It's beautiful. Though.
once again, I have truly, truly enjoyed this exchange, and I look forward to our next conversation in the near
Oh yeah,
future.
for sure. Let's make it sooner than later.
Keep doing your great work. Keep doing your great work because they need you, and like you said, they need us when all
Indeed.
of this gets to face, and then
Okay.
some. So, everyone, have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for tuning in to Conscious Conversations. Peace and love. I will see you all actually this Monday. This Monday, I will be starting my office hours Q&A with Coach Dawn. You can ask me questions. I'll have people come up for Q&A or anything, all things personal growth, healing and self-empowerment and spiritual development. Let's chop it up. Let's get you guys on the right frequency, on the right path to your next level of greatness. In the meantime, have a wonderful evening, y'all. And Dr. Harrison Jones the fourth, I will talk to you sooner than later.
All right. Talk to you later.
Peace
Thank you
and
all.
love.